Your child is on the floor, screaming, hands pressed over his ears. And every instinct tells you to ask, why are you doing this to me? But what if that's the wrong question completely? What if, in that exact moment, your child isn't misbehaving? He's overwhelmed in a way his 6-year-old brain has no words for yet. Today, we're going inside a meltdown. What if, in this exact moment, your child isn't misbehaving at all? What if he's not being difficult, stubborn, or manipulative? He's being overwhelmed in a way his 6-year-old brain doesn't yet have the words to explain, even to himself, let alone to you. Today, we're going inside a meltdown. Not what it looks like from the outside, the screaming, the flailing, but what's actually happening inside your child's nervous system when the world suddenly becomes too loud, too bright, too fast, and simply too much to process. By the end of this video, you won't just understand meltdowns differently. You'll walk away knowing exactly what to do the next time one happens in your home. And just as importantly, what not to do, so you can support your child instead of unintentionally making things harder. Let's start with something every parent needs to hear clearly. A meltdown is not a tantrum. From across a room, they can look almost identical, but underneath the surface, they are two completely different events, driven by completely different things happening inside a child's mind and body. A tantrum is, in simple terms, goal-directed behavior. A child wants something specific, a toy, a cookie, 5 more minutes of screen time. And when the answer is no, that frustration turns into protest, into crying, into pushing back against a boundary they don't like. A tantrum usually eases once the child gets what they wanted, or once they realize protesting won't change the outcome, no matter how loud they get. In other words, it has an on-off switch, one that responds directly to what's happening around it in real time. A meltdown works completely differently. It isn't about getting something at all. It's what happens when a nervous system has taken in more information, sound, light, texture, unspoken emotion than it can possibly organize or process, until something inside simply overflows. Autism specialists describe it simply. A meltdown isn't a choice a child makes on purpose. It's closer to an involuntary system overload than any kind of decision. And once it begins, it genuinely cannot be reasoned away with logic, bribery, or a stern voice. To understand why, we have to look at how Tom experiences the world around him. For most of us, background noise fades into the distance. For Tom, every single sound can arrive at full volume all at once with no natural filter to soften it. The hum of fluorescent lights, the scrape of a chair against tile, a stranger's laughter across the room, a tag scratching the back of his shirt. None of it fades into the background the way it does for most people. All of it competes loudly for his attention. Layer enough of that on top of each other throughout a single ordinary day, and Tom's brain reaches a point most of us never have to face. Simply too much information arriving too fast, with absolutely no reliable way left to filter any of it out. That is the exact moment a meltdown begins. Not because Tom is choosing somewhere deep down to lose control on purpose, but because his nervous system has quite literally run out of room to hold anything else without breaking down under the weight of it. Inside the brain, this triggers what scientists call the fight, flight, or freeze response, the very same ancient survival system that once protected our early ancestors from real, immediate physical danger in the wild, long before crowded classrooms or fluorescent supermarket aisles ever existed. The amygdala, the brain's built-in alarm center, sounds the sirens loudly and immediately. And when that happens, the part of the brain responsible for calm language, patience, and reasoning temporarily takes a back seat, unable to keep up with the flood of urgent signals. This is exactly why, in the middle of a meltdown, Asking Tom to use his words or simply calm down rarely works the way we hope it will. The part of his brain that processes those kinds of instructions isn't fully accessible to him right now. It's not defiance, and it was never about disrespect. It's biology, plain and simple. Imagine trying to solve a difficult problem while an alarm blares directly in your ears and the whole room seems to spin around you. That's genuinely closer to what Tom feels. So, what is Tom actually thinking during a meltdown? The honest, science-backed answer is very little, at least in the organized way we usually mean when we say thinking. There are no clear, formed sentences quietly assembling themselves inside his overwhelmed young mind right now. What's there instead is closer to a flood of raw sensation. Too loud, too bright, too much, repeating over and over, without any words available to organize it into meaning, and without an obvious off switch that his small body can simply reach for and press. Some autistic adults, describing their own childhood meltdowns years later, say it felt like being caught inside a storm they never created and could never fully stop on their own, with no clear or reliable way left to signal to anyone else that they needed help. That detail matters enormously. Tom isn't trying to signal for help the way he normally might during an ordinary hard moment. His usual tools, spoken words, small gestures, steady eye contact, simply aren't reliably available to him while his nervous system is this overwhelmed. This is exactly where a lot of loving parents, through absolutely no fault of their own, get stuck. Because every instinct inside us wants to fix the situation immediately, to talk our child down quickly, to somehow make the overwhelming moment simply stop right now. But here's what child psychologists genuinely want every parent to know. The most helpful thing you can do in that exact moment often isn't more words, more questions, or more explanation at all. Surprisingly, it's usually less of nearly everything happening around your child. Less noise, less bright light, less talking, less asking repeated questions he can't yet answer. Right now, your calm, quiet, steady presence genuinely matters more than any explanation, instruction, or well-meaning reminder you could possibly offer him in this exact overwhelming moment. Think of yourself in this moment, not as a problem to solve or a switch to flip, but as an anchor. You're not trying to single-handedly stop the storm happening inside him. You're simply staying steady and present until it naturally passes on its own. And it genuinely will pass. A meltdown, as overwhelming as it feels for absolutely everyone in the room while it's happening, is never permanent. Like any wave, it has a clear beginning, it reaches a peak, and eventually, reliably, it comes to an end. After the peak passes, something else tends to happen that quietly catches many parents off guard. Tom often goes noticeably quiet, visibly exhausted, sometimes tearful, and sometimes strangely still, as if all the energy that built the storm has suddenly drained completely out of him. This is what's known as the recovery phase. His nervous system is essentially resetting itself, much the way your own body feels completely drained after a genuine scare or shock. He isn't sulking or punishing you with silence. He is, quite simply, recovering from something real. This recovery period is often when real connection becomes possible again. A quiet hand resting gently on his back, his favorite soft blanket brought close. Simply being near him without demanding conversation, explanation, or apology before he's ready to offer either one. What Tom needs least in this fragile moment is punishment, a lecture, or being told he embarrassed the family in public. He didn't choose any of this to happen. Punishing a nervous system response doesn't teach a lasting skill. It only quietly teaches shame instead. So if punishment clearly isn't the answer here, What actually helps in real, everyday life? Let's walk through 3 practical, genuinely usable things you can realistically start doing tonight, tomorrow morning, and every single day after that. One small step at a time. Tip 1. Notice the pattern before it fully builds. Keep a simple running note of what tended to come right before past meltdowns. Loud events, sudden transitions, hunger, tiredness, crowded spaces. Patterns usually reveal themselves faster than most exhausted parents ever expect them to. Once you clearly know Tom's most common triggers, you can genuinely prepare for them ahead of time. Not to avoid every single hard moment entirely, which isn't realistic, but simply to reduce how many of those triggers pile up on him all at once. Tip 2. Build a calm down plan together. While Tom is genuinely calm, never during the meltdown itself, when it's already far too late. A quiet corner, a weighted or soft blanket, one specific comfort object. Decide these things together, patiently, well ahead of time. New coping skills can never realistically be taught in the middle of an active storm. They're taught gently during calm, ordinary moments, then practiced together, often enough that they eventually become familiar. Almost automatic reflexes Tom can reach for when things get genuinely hard. Tip 3. Respond to the meltdown itself with presence, not pressure. Lower your voice noticeably. Simplify your words down to almost nothing. Give him physical space if he visibly pulls away, but stay close and steady if he leans in toward you instead. You truly don't need the perfect sentence in this moment, and there isn't one anyway. What you need is steady presence. Your visible calm becomes the exact signal his overwhelmed nervous system is quietly searching for, somewhere inside all of that internal chaos and noise. And afterward, once he's ready, and genuinely only once he's ready, you can gently talk about what happened together. Not framed as a lecture or a correction, but simply offered as quiet understanding between the two of you, without judgment attached to any of it. Something as simple as, "That was really loud and hard today, wasn't it?" lets him know clearly that he was seen, not judged, that he was understood in that moment, not corrected or scolded for something that was never fully within his control to begin with. Over time, with real patience and consistent practice, many autistic children gradually develop more internal tools to notice the earliest signs of overwhelm, well before it ever fully reaches the point of a complete meltdown, giving both child and parent a bit more room to act early. That doesn't mean meltdowns disappear entirely from daily life. Even adults get genuinely overwhelmed sometimes, and that's simply human. But their frequency and intensity often soften noticeably as regulation skills grow, especially inside a home that consistently feels safe rather than critical or punishing. It's worth clearly remembering, too, that every autistic child is genuinely different from the next. Tom's specific triggers, his particular signals, and what actually helps him calm down won't necessarily look identical to another child's experience, even one with a very similar diagnosis. What stays remarkably true across almost every child, though, is this. Underneath a meltdown isn't defiance, and it never really was. It's a nervous system asking in the only way it currently knows how, quite simply, for everything around it to slow down. So the next time you see your own child on the floor, visibly overwhelmed and struggling, remember this clearly. He isn't giving you a hard time on purpose. He is, in that exact moment, genuinely having the hardest time of his entire day, maybe his week. And your patience in that difficult moment, even when it's genuinely hard, even when you're utterly exhausted yourself, is quietly teaching him something enormous about the world. That he is safe, loved, and accepted completely, even when he visibly falls apart in front of you. That deep sense of safety is the foundation everything else eventually gets built on. trust, real communication, and over time, a child who feels a little less alone inside his own big, overwhelming feelings, and a little more understood by the people who love him most. To recap everything simply, notice the early signs before overwhelm fully builds. Prepare calm down tools together while your child is genuinely calm, and respond to actual meltdowns with steady presence, never with pressure, punishment, or shame, no matter how difficult or public the moment feels. You are not failing as a parent because your child has meltdowns sometimes. You are doing something incredibly hard every single day and quietly showing up for it anyway. One difficult storm at a time, learning and adjusting as you go, together as a family. If this video helped you understand your child a little better today, subscribe for more evidence-based videos on autism, parenting, and the science of raising a child who experiences the world differently than most. There's so much more to learn together. See you in the next one.